welcome to the Fredericksburg Center for the Creative Arts and our May 2023 Life's Patterns exhibition. I'm Carol Morgan, the curator of the Frederick Gallery. The Fcca is open Monday, noon to 4, closed Tuesday and Wednesday, open Thursday and Friday, noon to 4, with extended hours on First Friday to 8:30 p.m., open Saturday, 11 a.m. to 4, Sundays, 1 p.m. to 4. I want to thank our videographer, David Kennedy, for his marvelous editing work and our posting of our videos on our YouTube channel, Fredericksburg Center for the Creative Arts. During May, the Fredericksburg Members Gallery features the artworks of Dan Ramsey, and he's from Fredericksburg, and Elizabeth Shoemate from Newport News, Virginia. You're invited to visit our exhibitions in person and enjoy original art in our historic silversmith house, built in 1785, where art and history meet, located at 813 Sophia Street in historic downtown Fredericksburg. This afternoon, I have the pleasure of introducing our Life's Patterns juror, Sandra D. Davis. Sandra is a multidisciplinary artist and likes to experiment with materials with a focus on mixed media, using components like acrylics, found paper, newspaper, and magazines, keeping a recycled theme. Sandra's current work is a direct response to social issues happening in our country, including present grievances, inequality, and identity of others. Sandra has curated and co-curated exhibitions for the Women's Caucus for Art since 2019. She also regularly shows her art throughout the Delaware, Maryland, Virginia area. Sandra graduated from the Art Institute of Pittsburgh in 1981, where she met her husband, Aaron, of 40 years. Her art career was put on hold while she pursued a career in retail and banking. In 2009, she once again focused on her art. Her first solo was in 2012 at the Center for Green Urbanism. Sandra joined the Women's Caucus for Art in 2019, where she currently serves as the Exhibition Committee Chair and also served as board member for the National Women's Caucus for Art 2022, Conference Committee member, as well as President-elect for 2024. We welcome our juror, Sandra D. Davis.
Thank you, Carol, for that wonderful introduction. It is my pleasure to be here as the juror for the Fcca's current exhibition titled Life's Patterns. And you know, it's important to note that patterns is one of the principles of art, and we often talk about principles of design. And the most common principle when it includes pattern, repetition, rhythm, movement, variety, harmony, balance, scale, proportion, and emphasis. Patterns set up expectations, make connections, and inspire burning questions. They can be events that regularly repeat themselves, trends in which rise and fall over a prolonged period, and even relationships that create those connections. As humans, we look for patterns to help us make a sense of things, and repetition is comforting. Now, this piece by Felicia Reed is one of our honorable mentions, and it's titled Kaleidoscope, Life's Looking Glass. This piece actually made me sort of revert back to my childhood, where we all had those wonderful tubes of kaleidoscopes, and every time you turned that tube, a different pattern would emerge. Different colors, glass beads, and paper. It really sort of kept you engaged all day. And so this piece by Felicia really spoke to my childhood and that inner child really wanting to look at that kaleidoscope again. Our second honorable mention is by Sally Roan Kabarick. And this piece is titled The Things She Never Told You, Squares. This piece spoke to me. We all seem to have family stories and history where things may not necessarily connect. And we create that pattern by not telling the full stories. And as you can see in this piece, she actually has a few of the squares that are actually blank. Was that done on purpose? Are we supposed to assume what those disconnected stories should be? And so Again, as we talk about childhood, we talk about family, and we talk about those life's patterns, I'm sure there's quite a few of us who will be able to fill in those squares and make up our own stories and create our own patterns. Now, our next honorable mention is a piece by Karen Cohen, and it's a photograph titled Socializing. We all know in 2020, when we were in COVID and we were completely shut down, that pattern, that life's pattern that we got so used to, those happy hours, hanging out on Friday nights, this particular pattern came to a complete stop. I also wanted to select this piece because of some of the movement that's actually happening in the photograph. There's the curvature of the bar. There are the light shades on the lamp that's creating its own pattern. And then the other part that really stood out to me was this pattern. We're all looking at our phones. We're all looking at the menu. We're not even talking to each other, although we've craved that connection. And when I think about life's patterns, we've gotten away from a very simple socializing pattern. Even though we're back in the bars and we're back in the restaurants, we're still sort of making sure that we're set apart. And so socializing for this one, when it talks about life's patterns, was really important. And I was really pleased with this piece. Thank you. Our fourth honorable mention is titled Life is So Fragile. And this is by Lisa Spencer Ballard. Nature creates patterns like the way our seasons change, how plants grow, and even how birds will fly in formation. We look forward every spring for those tulips and daffodils to come back every year, and we never question that pattern. When I look at Lisa's piece, Life is So Fragile, it's actually dragonfly wings, and it takes the viewer to be really close up to sort of pick up on those patterns. Lisa's use of color, Lisa's use of the metallic reflection is often what we see when a dragonfly sort of flies by us. And she really did a nice job of keeping it very subtle, because we know dragonfly wings are very thin and transparent. And the use of the metallic gold really sort of helped bring us that translucent feel. Although this is done with watercolor, she was able to really shine what that dragonfly wing could actually look like. Now for our selection, that's number 3, and our winners for today is Aqua Tower by Deborah Herndon. Now, just taking the first look at this photograph, it immediately says pattern. And we think about patterns being mathematical, we think about patterns being arranged in a particular sequence that are related to each other to solve a particular problem. This piece here makes you stop and think about how much work that architect had to go through, what was those mathematical calculations to sort of get to this tower. And then also think about the photographer. What did that photographer have to calculate in order to capture the light in the correct way, to ensure that those clouds are showing up in the correct way? We often think in terms of mathematical has to equal 1 + 1 = 2, but we don't necessarily think about how those patterns create beautiful art. Our second place winner is a piece titled Timeless Number 27 by Rebecca Carpenter. And although this show is about life's patterns, this piece says to me, I need to break out of this pattern. She really, as a young person that she's captured, when you look at the sepia feel of the photograph, this looks like a young lady who wants to step out of pattern, to break out what is normal or what she's used to. And maybe she wants to break out of her comfort level. So when we think about life's patterns, it doesn't always have to be something that we're used to or comfortable with. Sometimes it's about breaking that pattern, and figuring out a way to get out of a particular circumstance or ritual. Now for our first place selection, we have Evening Routine by artist Carly Bridges. As I had mentioned in the very beginning, as humans, we look for patterns and repetition to give us comfort. Every single one of us can see ourselves in this particular routine, life's patterns. We do this every day, every morning, every evening. This piece is genderless, it's religiousness. There is no political statement whatsoever. We all do this every single day. So when it came to choose what I wanted to see as the first place winner for this particular Life's Patterns show, brushing our teeth and flossing, you can't get any more simple life's patterns than that one. And this is why I chose Carly's piece. I immediately related to it the first time I saw it. And Carly should really be pleased with this piece because I think she captured every day, not just everyday Americas, but every day, every person all over the world. So thank you, Carly, for this piece.
I'd like to thank Sandra Davis, our juror, for doing an excellent job of selecting such a beautiful exhibition and for so precisely stating her criteria for the awards she elected and the honorable mentions. We all look to learn more through what our jurors see in our art exhibitions. Please stay with this video as it will provide a walkthrough of all the work in the exhibition, and we hope you will take time to visit the exhibition in person because art can best be seen when you're standing in front of the actual pieces. Thank you, Sandra. It's been a delight working with you.
It was a wonderful honor and much appreciated. Thanks again for having me.
the Fredericksburg Center for the Creative Arts, where art and history meet.